Are you overwhelmed by credit card debts? Do you find yourself in a situation where bills keep piling on? Perhaps you're laid off from your work. Maybe you're injured in a car accident for a short period of time, but these bills keep coming in and piling on month after month. What do you do? For you and for most of my clients, they have a legitimate reason. They just can't afford these high credit card interest rates, and they feel like anything they do, they'll never be able to pay it off. So what do? You file for a Chapter 7, and if you're an individual earning less than $70,000 a year in California, then this video is for you. My name is Henry Haddad, and I've been an attorney here in California for over 35 years handling bankruptcy cases. And in this video, I want to give you a summary, an overview of what bankruptcy is so you can feel comfortable with the process and make a decision as to whether or not this is a viable tool for you. Now, the idea is to get you relief from your situation now, but you have to keep in mind, going forward, you have to make some changes in your life. You can't live your life keeping up with the Joneses, buying the latest gadgets, and charging everything on credit cards while paying minimum credit card payments. You just can't do that because you'll find yourself in the same hole. So let's go over what the bankruptcy is. What is a Chapter 7? In a Chapter 7, it's a legal process where you're asking a judge to basically declare that all your debts are forgiven, so you don't have to pay any of your creditors. That's great. That's absolutely wonderful for those who are heavily in debt. Now, what happens when you file bankruptcy? First thing that happens is there's an automatic stay that's issued by the court. An automatic stay basically tells the creditors they cannot contact you, they cannot call you, cannot disturb you at work or at home, asking to get paid, and all lawsuits against you are frozen. That's the first thing that happens when you file bankruptcy. Second, within about 30 to 45 days, you're going to go through a trustee hearing. So a trustee is assigned to your case, and the trustee's job is to look at your estate, look at your assets, and see if there are any non-exempt assets that the trustee can get a hold of to pay off some of the creditors. Then, within about 60 days after this hearing, the creditors have the right to file a claim against you, and a claim is typically filed if there is fraud, maybe you lied on a loan application or you lied on your bankruptcy petition. Then a claim can be filed and will have to be heard through the bankruptcy process. Then the last step is within 120 days of filing bankruptcy, the judge gets your case and issues an order of discharge, meaning your debts are wiped out. The beautiful thing is that during this process, you can still work, earn a living, continue on with your life, but your debts are frozen. You don't pay anybody. That's a beautiful thing about Chapter 7. Now, what debts are forgiven in Chapter 7? First, you have to list all your debts. You can't pick and choose one creditor over another. So that's it. Get that clear. Then, debts are categorized into two types, secured and unsecured. Secured creditors or secured debts are typically car loans and home mortgages. Now, with those, you have a choice. For example, on a car loan, if you like your car, you're okay with the payments, then you can continue making payments and sign a reaffirmation agreement, and you keep your car and life goes on. If you don't like your car, or you think the payments are too high and the creditor won't negotiate with you, then you just return back the car and you don't have to pay them. With a home mortgage, there are certain issues regarding equity and the homestead exemption, and we'll cover that shortly. Then we go to unsecured debts. That's the most common issue that people have. These are typically credit card debts. They're just through the roof. Hospital bills, medical bills, utility bills, judgments against you, taxes that you owe to the IRS or any government agency that's over 3 years old. These are unsecured debts that can be discharged in bankruptcy and typically encompass the whole of everyone's bankruptcy petition. Keep in mind, not all debts are forgiven. For example, if you have student loans, if you have a court-ordered family support obligation, if you have court fines, and of course taxes you owe any government agency that are more recent in time, 3 years or less. That's number one. Number two, any credit card charges within 90 days of filing bankruptcy is not dischargeable. They don't want you to go out there and get crazy and charge up your credit cards and get cash out and then file bankruptcy. It doesn't work that way. And lastly, transactions made within the last 4 years that were not done in the ordinary or normal way. You didn't receive money for it. For example, if you have a bright red Ferrari and you tell your brother, look, I'm going to give you a title just to keep the car hidden from creditors. If you file bankruptcy, the trustee is going to seize that asset, maybe drive around your Ferrari for a while, sell it, then pay off some of the creditors. So these are debts that are not forgiven. Now you have to identify your assets. So let's talk about your home. For homes, you're entitled to file a homestead exemption, which means for an individual, if you build up equity, up to $75,000 of that equity is protected. If you're a married couple, it's $100,000. If you're a senior citizen or a disabled person, it's about $175,000. What happens there is this: the equity amount up to that amount is protected, it's yours. Anything above that, you stand a chance of perhaps losing it if you don't negotiate with the trustee. Perhaps you should think about this beforehand and talk to the creditors before, arrange for a credit payment, or perhaps file a different chapter, Chapter 13 of bankruptcy. That's very important. Other assets that are exempt would be household furniture, furnishings, appliances, electronics, your clothing, personal effects, jewelry up to a certain amount, obviously. If you own a car outright, you're allowed up to about $4,800 in exemption in that automobile, and tools of the trade. And then lastly, if you have a savings account or investment account that's not in your typical IRA type of a plan or retirement plan or 401k plan, then those funds have to be transferred to the trustee, and the trustee will then sell them and pay off creditors. Important to keep all those things in mind and to set out all your assets and debts on a piece of paper before you take the step. But the beauty of the step is that you get your debts wiped out. As we discussed, who's eligible? In California, it's anyone earning $70,000 or less. Obviously, if you're married, the amount is more. If you have children, it's a little bit more. If you have dependents, it's a little bit more. Once you file Chapter 7, you go through this process, your debts are wiped out. So, take control of your life and your finances. Don't stress out. Don't become an irate person. There is hope. There is relief. Bankruptcy, Chapter 7, has brought relief to many, many people who are heavily in debt. They just want to get out of it and breathe again. But keep in mind that this is going to be a new beginning, and a new beginning requires a new mindset, so you don't make the same mistake over and over again. I'm Henry Haddad, and I'm here in Los Angeles. Feel free to call me, call my office, so we can give you advice. If you have any questions or concerns about filing bankruptcy, look into it. That may be the relief that you are seeking.